Hello, everybody, wherever you may be, from coast to coast and sea to shine and sea. Welcome back to Ham Radio Live, where the world comes to talk radio. Big guest, Jeanne Socrates, live today. Welcome back to the show.
Puff the magic dragon lived by the sea and frolicked in the autumn mist in a land called Honolulu. Little Jackie Paper loved that rascal Puff and brought him strings and sealing wax and other fancy stuff. Oh, Puff the magic dragon lived by the sea and frolicked in the autumn mist in a land called Honolulu. Puff the magic dragon lived by the sea and frolicked in the autumn mist in a land called Honolulu. Together they would travel on a boat with billowed sail. Jackie kept a lookout perched on Puff's gigantic tail. Noble kings and princes would bow whene'er they came. Pirate ships would lower their flags when Puff roared out his name. Oh, Puff the magic dragon lived by the sea and frolicked in the autumn mist in a land called Honolulu. Puff the magic dragon lived by the sea and frolicked in the autumn mist in a land called Honolulu.
Great song from Peter, Paul, and Mary. This is beautiful. Puff the Magic Dragon. This was Jan's request. Victor Echo 0, Juliet Sierra, and more importantly, world record holder for sailing the world solo. No kidding. We'll talk about that today. Also about our amateur radio on board the ship, the Narita, and also talk about her excursions, her world travels. This is going to be such a great show, folks, around the world. Welcome back to the show. We're so glad you're here. Away we go. Hi, everybody. I am really so honored to have her today. This is a special show. It was requested by Ray Novak at ICOM, and I got a hold of her, and she was so pleasant, so kind. She said, absolutely, I'd be honored to. And this is an honor for me because I followed her last trip around the world and made contact with her between Hawaii and North America a few times. It was just, it was neat to keep track of what she was doing and how she was out there. But it was interesting, before she made it, she was stuck. She just couldn't get in towards North America. There was no wind. It was an interesting story, and we'll share that plus some other stuff. Before we do that, I want to tell you, the beginning song, Puff the Magic Dragon, was Jan's request, and this is where the song comes from. It comes from Honolulu Bay on the beautiful island of Kauai, which is great. Look at that little wispy cloud coming down from the mountains of Kauai. That's Puff the Magic Dragon territory there. So, again, thanks to Jan for this wonderful song that comes a little bit towards the islands of Hawaii. If you would like to get your amateur radio license, we'd like to help you with that. Great clubs around the world are around to help you get licensed. A great one to start with might be the American Radio Relay League. There's great, just like the Radio Society of Great Britain or the Wireless Institute of Australia. They all will help you find a local club to you. Find them at www.arrl.org. Click the Contact Us bar. Let them know you'd like to get your amateur radio license and where you live. They'll send an amateur radio club close to where you're from. Get to know that club. They'll help answer your questions about amateur radio, as well as help you hopefully pass the test. Man, they might even lend you some gear to get you started. www.arrl.org. If you're here from the WRMI shortwave, so CQ Calling, I want to thank you for coming today. Also, if you'd like to help WRMI due to the hurricane damage from Hurricane Ian, they were devastated by this storm, and their beams towards Africa and towards Europe have both been damaged beyond repair. They need help. If you'd like to help WRMI get back on the air towards Europe and Africa on shortwave, you can help them two ways, either at www.wrmi.net. Please click the donate button for hurricane relief, or you can get them on GoFundMe at SOS WRMI. We've lost way too many shortwave stations, really have. Also, want to thank the gang that put together the hamradiolive.org website. That was pretty sweet. Thanks, guys. Yeah. made by people from this channel. And I that's one thing I'm most proud of right there. Also, if you'd like to email me, the cqhamradiolive@gmail.com way is a good way to do it. We'll get a new email up pretty soon, but that's the easiest way to get to me. Also, a great Discord community will help answer questions about radio or just talk radio at ham-radio-live. We have a very special guest today, and I am honored to have her. Jeanne Socrates has sailed the world not once, not twice. She's done solo 4 times. And we'll talk about that history. And we'll also talk about her being the oldest person to be able to do this around the major horns and major capes of the world. Oh my gosh, she is such a gifted person. And we're honored to have her today. Coming in from Northern California, here she is, Jeanne Socrates. Welcome, Jeanne. Good to see you.
Good morning, good afternoon to everyone, wherever you are.
Yep.
It's an honor to be here.
This
Very
is
much enjoying it.
Yeah, this is take 2, so we're grateful. And by the way, we're not going to do the first, seconds, and thirds, although Rob in LA, you did come in first. Let me just welcome a few people, just to give you an idea of who's here currently live. Rob comes from Southern California. They're in Los Angeles. Rodney is here from Holland, Papa Alpha 9 Romeo Whiskey. We have Jeff from Portland, Alpha Delta 7 Lima November. Greg from New England over here, and a beautiful young lady in Southern California. This is Kim, Kilo 6 Yankee Lima. Kim, welcome. Also, Andy New from the UK, Mike 7 Charlie Union November. Ron Walensky from up in your neck of the woods there, November 8 Whiskey Charlie Romeo. He's in Monroe, Washington, just not too far out of Seattle. Roger McKeon from Spokane has come. Same with Kevin from Iowa. Steve from the UK. We got a big group of people. And also, of course, we have Winan here from Africa in the country of Namibia. We're honored to have you again today, Winan. Thank you. Folks, I can't get to everybody, but I'd love to be able to do that. But I do want to tell you, I'm grateful to have Jeanne on the show. If you have a question for her, this is such a special guest. I'd like you to ask it, please, in the comment section, and start it by question. Just put question, and then I'll make sure and get the question to her. A neat thing. Rodney says she sailed 4 times. Yes, 4 times. You've done this 4 times over already, haven't you, Jeanne?
Yeah, that's correct. I actually normally say 4.5, and it's all solo. The half being actually from England round to South Africa, and then on around via New Zealand to Hawaii and on up to Canada.
Fantastic. So, wow. Oh, I have a dream. I've never told you this. I've got this weird dream in my head. I would love to sail to Hawaii. I would love to do that. My wife said, nope, bad weather, don't want to risk my life, yada, yada, yada. What's it like to sail the open seas and go to these beautiful places that you've seen?
Well, actually, so often the sail to Hawaii from California is not that, doesn't have bad weather at all. You have, once you get down into the trade winds, and you obviously pick your weather window to start, so you're not going to go in a storm straight away. You're going to have good weather down to the trade winds, and then you have the trade winds conditions, which give you lovely sailing all the way to Hawaii. It's a 3-week sail normally for boats my size anyway. Mm-hmm. It's a lovely sail. It's beautiful. You've got the big seas, you've got the open sky. It's lovely, and of course you've got the radio for company, even better.
Yes, and you use that radio a lot. You really do. I remember I was blessed to talk with you a few times on your way between Hawaii and North America, right when you got stuck. It was just before you got stuck where the winds stopped. You were so close to getting around the world again, and then the winds stopped. What was that like?
That was very, very frustrating. But it wasn't the first time. I think that must have been about the 3rd time that has happened to me, trying to get towards Victoria up in British Columbia in Canada. And the wind dies. And the problem is that if you're going for a world record around the world, you have to have your engine sealed off. You're not allowed to use your engine. It has to be under sail only. So if the wind dies and the current takes me backwards, so be it. I just have to live with that. And everyone's talking to me saying, hey, you're going backwards. I'm saying, well, that's what's good. I can't do anything about it. Until the wind comes up, I'm stuck. So Yeah, it can be a little bit frustrating at times.
I bet. Yeah, because you've come so far. Well, we've got so many questions to ask Jan today, but we want you to be able to ask your questions first. So please feel free, put them in the comments section, and we'll make it part of today's show. Kim in Southern California says, I remember listening to Jan on her journey, and I assume that would probably be the last one. I know QRZ was really following you quite a bit back then. When you're talking with amateur radio, are you typically an HF person, VHF, UHF? Do you do all three, or is it mostly HF?
Oh, when I'm at sea, it's all HF. I mean, you're not going to get anywhere. Well, I say that. That's another little story I have, actually. VHF I know I managed to get someone 1,000 miles away, which is amazing. VHF.
Wow.
Yep. I know it. I was on VHF, and suddenly I'm hearing this guy, and I'd checked into a net on the HF radio not long before, and I heard this guy talking, so I knew exactly where he was. He was just off Madagascar, and I was passing south of Madagascar, and I heard him clear as day. And then we had a long half-hour conversation, and then another guy ahead of me, about 100 miles ahead of me, again out of VHF range, he heard me talking, and he came to me, and we had a chat on VHF. So
my goodness.
Sometimes you get this kind of a temperature inversion effect.
Yep.
And
tropospheric duct.
Yeah, but normally I'm on HF. SSB radio is what I'm talking on.
Yeah, and where do your HF antennas? Tell us about how those are situated on your ship.
Well, it's just the one. It's my backstay, the back, the wire that holds up the mast, going down to the back of the boat. I've got an insulator right high up and low down, and that in between there, that's effectively what is my antenna on the boat. So it works pretty well with a good ground, I have to say.
Sure. And what bands can you work with that antenna?
Oh, anything and everything.
Wow.
I can work everything with that.
You can go from 160 all the way to 6 with that.
Yeah, I'm normally talking on 40 and 20 meters.
Yeah.
But I've talked on 18, 17. I've talked on lots of different ones. But those are the best ones for me.
Fantastic. We're live with Jeanne Socrates, Victor Echo 0, Juliet Sierra. Please put your questions, I should say, in the comment section. Winan in Namibia, he says, hi, Jeanne, long time since we chatted on radio on the Weather Net. Hope you're now doing very well. Your friend, Winan, Victor 51 Whiskey. That's nice, Winan. Thank you for that. Joshua Bateman, November 1, Juliet Bravo, thanks for being here. Rodney from Holland, by way of the Caribbean, says, as a sailor, captain, and fisherman who's loved the salt life, I am extremely impressed. No kidding. Continent number 4, David Luricia from Argentina is here. Hi, David. He says, hi, Jan, nice to see you. We made QSO when you were sailing southeast Argentina. David, Lima Whiskey 4 Delta Alpha Foxtrot. You've got to have a huge log. You've got to have a gigantic log of people you've made contacts with worldwide. Man, what's been some of the calls that you remember really well from out at sea?
Oh, my goodness. You're talking to someone who's hardly been on the radio for the last 3 years, unfortunately. I mean, no, it was lovely. When I was going around South America, I was coming down past Chile and talking to all the Chileans, and I'm coming round the Horn and then coming across the Atlantic, and I'm talking to the Argentinians, the Brazilians from Ecuador, Uruguay, and I've still got people in those places that contact me by email often, just to remind me of how often, I used to have a regular sched, and they'd all come back, and I'd be able to practice my bad Spanish, and it was great fun. Lovely.
Live with Jeanne Socrates, Victor Echo 0, Juliet Sierra, wonderful lady, and living the dream of a lot of people, sailing the world. Wow, what an amazing story. Winan in Africa, he said, long time since we spoke on the South Africa Maritime Mobile Net, and it sounds like you check into quite a few nets, don't you, Jen?
Yeah, that's correct. The one that when I'm in the Pacific, I'll check into the Pacific Seafarers Net on 14300, which is the Maritime Mobile Service Net, becomes the Pacific Seafarers at 0300 Zulu. And when I'm near South Africa, as Winan says, I check into the South African Maritime Mobile Service Net. And always done that. And it's it's been very, very nice to speak to people, because I've been, I have actually been stopped in South Africa, and so a lot of the people I've talked to on that net, I know exactly where they are. Maybe I've been there if it's in the south of the country.
Okay.
So yeah, it's good fun checking into the nets.
Yeah, I bet. And we have a mutual friend too with Vic, what is it? Sorry, now my mind just went like Whiskey 2 REM. Jim, nice guy, does that DXNet at 7.163, and just a neat man. You got a chance to go see them on a trip recently, didn't you? They kind of got you out to Florida.
Yeah, that was Jim, WB2REM.
WB2, there you go. Forgot the B. And it shouldn't be hard. Whiskey Bravo, right? Just Warner Brothers. There you go.
And Don, N7BD, and a lot of people on that net, on the 7.163 net. I talked to a lot when I was going around the world, because Jim has an amazing setup.
He does.
Amazing room. And it's very, in fact, he was the guy that set up my VE0JS net website on qrz.com. So I got, when I was kind of halfway around that last time, the guys there were saying to me, I was talking to them one day, and they were saying, "Oh, you've got to come to Orlando. We all get together in Orlando on a regular basis at the Hamfest there in February. Please say that you'll come and meet up with us all." But of course, I've been chatting to a lot of those guys on that net for years, and one or two, maybe, I think I might have met up with them in Maine up in Connecticut, but most of them I'd never met up with. So eventually I said yes, and then when I did finish, they were all very excited. They all clubbed together. They got me down to Orlando and put me up, and then we all had a big party at one of their houses in Orlando.
Jan got to go to Hamcation. That's pretty cool. That's really cool, actually. Andy New from the UK has a nice question. Mike 7, Charlie Union November. Jan has a strong English accent. Is she originally from the UK? Go ahead and tell that story. I'm going to turn the temperature down up here. It's getting a little warm in the shack. Go ahead.
Okay. Yes, Andy, I'm from West London, basically, although more recently I moved house. I'm theoretically now from Lymington, between Southampton and Bournemouth. So just across the way from the Isle of Wight. And yes, I'm basically a Brit, and but I'm traveling the world a lot. So I'm very rarely back. I was back in England this last September for the boat show. I try to get back for the boat show when I can. And I have been up to visit Baz up in Yorkshire, a radio friend. And so I'm a Brit, basically. That's hence my very English accent.
Yeah, and you're also no, I don't think you're ever retired, but you are by trade. You were a professor in college. You're a mathematician, right?
Yeah, that's correct. A mathematician with a physics degree, I have to say, which is very helpful when you're doing anything electrical or mechanical. My background is definitely of help. Although I have to say, on the boat, a lot of the problems that I come across are pretty basic electrical or mechanical problems.
Yep, I get you. I want to welcome Tom. That is continent number 5. Bahrain is here. Alpha 92 Golf Whiskey. Good evening, Tom. Best to you and your family. Thank you for joining today's show. Rodney in Holland question, how or was the setup on the cutter, especially for the long travel weather? Because I guess that she did not have an ERIRB on her first trip.
That's correct. Well, no, an EPIRB, I think I've managed to have an EPIRB pretty well every time I've made a long trip, because they've been around, easily since, 2000 on or before. I'm not quite sure when they first came in. But no, I've always had an EPIRB. But I mean, that's just for a distress, right? You set it off when you're in a distress situation. So I've only once done that when my boat was on the beach in Mexico.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
And you have an AIS on board as well, right?
Yeah, AIS again. When I did the single-handed transpac race from San Francisco out to Kauai in 2006, AIS was just coming in, and I was able to have a receive-only AIS on the boat, which was brilliant because it meant that I could get a warning if a big ship was anywhere near me or on a collision course, and it meant I could sleep that much better.
Yeah, and sleep is hard to come by on these trips, aren't they?
Well, it can be. It's always in snatches. It can be short snatches, could be longer. Maximum is normally, maybe if I'm lucky, 2 hours,
Wow.
if I can be sure that everything's fine. But that's again with the AIS on alarm. So if I were to be anywhere near anything, I would know it. But mostly I'm actually well away from everything. I'm mostly in a sea area that's got nothing in it. So that's pretty good.
just miles and miles of ocean. There you go. And I don't mean to be disrespectful with his name. It's an honor to have you here. I believe it is Marjok Schultenmacher. Hi, Jeanne. Lovely to see you and to hear you again. 73/88 Zulu Sierra 5 Victor. That is so kind. That's first time coming to this show. And it sounds like he has worked you before. I think it's Schumacher coming from South Africa. Thank you for coming today. Wow, that's neat.
That's a familiar name and call sign. Yeah.
Yeah, Zulu Sierra 5 Victor from South Africa. My goodness. Whining just north of him in Namibia. I think it's the first time I've ever said that on this program, but here we go. Jan, what was your age when you first started sailing?
Well, the very first time I stepped into a dinghy and a canoe and onto a windsurfer and fell off was when I was 48, and that was just beginning to get a taste for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually didn't step onto a yacht, onto a big sailing boat until I was 52. And then I actually did by then I had done a little bit of dinghy sailing. I'd really got into windsurfing, and then suddenly I discovered that yachting, being on a big sailboat, was pretty exciting and had a lot going for it. And that's actually when I really took off into the big boats.
Goodness sakes. Live with Jeanne Socrates here. If you have a question, please put it in the comment section. We'd love to be able to add your comment to today's show. What has been, this is too hard to ask you, I suppose, the capes that you've sailed around, are there any of them really special to you? Because you've done this multiple times.
Well, in a way, all of them are, because the aim, especially the last time, I'd done a non-stop in 2012 to 2013, but I'd only gone around 4 of the 5 Great Capes, because the previous time around, when I'd stopped in a few places to get the odd repair done, I'd gone around all 5 Capes. And so that time I went around 4. I missed out going south of New Zealand because there was a big storm ahead of me, and it was going to be difficult to make way against the wind, a big strong wind. So I went up the Tasman Sea. So this last time I thought, well, okay, I'm determined I'm going to go around all 5 Great Capes this time, which I did. Wow. But the first one, Cape Horn, was pretty special. And the last one, again, I'd had a big knockdown. My boat had been damaged trying to get down to that one in really bad stormy weather. And so I'd had to go north and keep away and then try again, which I did. And I got around, and it was lovely. I had a beautiful dawn, and then I sailed in the lee of Stewart Island, right down at the south end of New Zealand, and had a beautiful sail that day. So my first and my 5th Cape on this last non-stop around were, in their own way, pretty special.
Just beautiful. I could just talk to you all day. I really could, because the stories you must have in your head. I mean, when you and your late husband, George, both got into sailing, it was, a time when you could retire and live your life, in a way that you really wanted to. And I know that was an awfully hard loss for you. I'm sorry for the loss of your husband, George. And I want you to know that what you've done, I think, would probably make him pretty happy. You kept finding happiness in your life. That's pretty special.
Yeah, I think so. I especially soon after I lost him. And again, another friend also went to cancer, who we thought was going to come on the boat and join us. You kind of feel, well, by keeping on sailing on the boat, they were taken, very quickly from life when they thought they were going to keep on having a good life.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm kind of sailing for them in a way. It was
that's beautiful. That's a beautiful statement. I like that. Sailing for them. That's pretty special. What have been the benefits you've experienced since you have done this so many times? I mean, exposure obviously is there, but beyond exposure, what have been some of the benefits that have come through all this hard work of getting 2 or 3 hours sleep if you're lucky, all the things you've faced? What have been some of the good things?
Oh, I think the major benefit of all my sailing, actually, and being on the radio especially, has been all the friendships I've made. I mean, there's the 7163 group that I was with in talking to. There were people on the west coast of the States who initially talked to me the very first time in 2012. And then more recently, the 7155 group, I've made a lot of friends there. Talked to them regularly when I've come down the west coast of on the Pacific side. And just every time I've stopped, I've made friends. I'm kept in contact with a lot of my South African friends and Australian and New Zealand friends and US friends, partly via Facebook, I have to say, as well. I'm in constant contact and kept up with news that way, which has been really, really good. So, yeah, people have made a big, big difference in my life as a result of my sailing. I've been very lucky.
Do you have a favorite ocean?
Oh, not really. Well, I suppose the Pacific in a way, because it's just so big. There's so much in it. But no, everywhere you go is different. Everyone says, where's your favourite place? Well, in a way, I suppose British Columbia has fabulous sailing, cruising grounds. It's really beautiful. But then elsewhere in the world, you've got other different places that are beautiful in their own way. Australia, I'm looking to get back to Australia to cruise there. I'm looking forward to cruising in the north of New Zealand, which I've never cruised around. I've been round the bottom twice, through the middle once, round the top once.
Wow.
I've never really stopped to cruise it. So, no, everywhere is great. Different. It's a difference that makes it interesting as well. Everywhere is different.
Got a question from Roger McKeon in Spokane. Roger, Molly, welcome. Good to have you both. Could you elaborate on the ship or boats that you've used to sail around the world with?
Well, it's just been the two. They've both been called Narida. They're both both Swedish boats, a Naiad. The first one was a Naiad 361, a 36-footer. When in fact, to be honest, sorry, excuse me, just below, just a little bit under 37 feet, 36 foot 10. And then my present boat from 2009 onward is a 380, a Naiad 380, which is ostensibly a 38-foot boat. So basically not much different in size, although this last one is slightly bigger, has a bigger rig. I definitely realised that the sails were bigger, the mast was higher on this one, just a little bit. So, yeah, they both sail beautifully and, look after me. They're very sturdy, good ocean-going boats.
Excellent, excellent. Live with Jeanne Socrates, Victor Echo Zero, Juliet Sierra on Ham Radio Live. Today we're grateful that you're part of the show as well. Thank you for joining us. Please feel free to put a question in the comment section and we'll ask this amazing lady about their question. This is neat because Rodney in Holland starts out, amazing. She bested the legend of the Flying Dutchman around Cape Horn and Cape of Good Hope. It's an honor to be able to basically write to a living legend. I would agree with that. I mean, not many people have accomplished what you've done. I've got to ask a funny question. And this is, you got 38-foot boat and you can't be that big. You're not that big of a woman. How in the heck, when you get on deck, onto a dock, do you get that boat in and tied up? Because you don't weigh a whole bunch with that boat, certainly is a lot of mass.
Well, that's something when the boat was new and, when my husband was alive, the two of us picked up the first boat. And, yeah, we just spent a day practicing docking the boat one day because you just have to get used to your boat. Mm-hmm. You've been on boats, you know that every boat is different. And this boat, of course, is a heavy displacement boat. She's a lot heavier, so she takes a bit more time to respond to everything. So a lot of practice. And if I'm not sure which side I'm going to dock, then I'll just have lines and fenders on both sides as I'm coming in somewhere, just in case I want to change my mind about which side I'm going to dock. And then I try to come alongside the dock. I step off, hopefully, with all three lines, a bow line, a stern line, and a midships line. The midship cleat is so important for single hander. Get that line on and the boat is relatively safe, and then you decide which of the other two you want to get tied on next.
Amazing. I give you a lot of credit to be able to do that yourself. That's really impressive in my eyes, for sure. Ron Walensky in Monroe, Washington, November 8 Whiskey, Charlie Romeo. Jan, was there ever a time during a storm or such where you thought, what am I doing here?
Well, I mean, there have been times when I've been just willing the wind strength to go down. Please, please, just get a little bit less. We get a little bit wide if the conditions get really bad.
Yeah.
But if I get really, really bad, then I've got, I have my safety device. I throw out what's called a Jordan series drogue, which is a long, long line. I think about 100 or 200 feet long, with 124 little cloth cones on it, and that basically holds me safe. I take my sails down, I put that out, and I just wait for the storm. If it's really, really bad, which it can be. I mean, I've been south of Australia twice within a week, one weekend, and then after Anzac Day, the next weekend, I had to put out my drogue because I was in big seas, 10 meter, 30-foot seas, 60 knot winds, really, really strong, nasty conditions. But with that, I've stopped the boat. I just get down below. I obviously close up, hope that we don't get too much water down below. Hopefully we don't get any.
Yeah.
And just the storm to pass and then get underway again. So, you have to be ready for the big conditions, for these stormy conditions. And with that series drogue, that line, with all the little cones on it, holding the boat still, it's a bit uncomfortable. I just make myself a big stew, get into my bunk. I'm probably freezing cold. It's probably about 6 centigrade, which is, I can't know think what that is, 40 Fahrenheit.
Oh, that's
get
funny.
into my bunk where it's safe, nice and soft, and wait for the storm to pass.
I'm showing a picture of you up there on in the wheelhouse with your nice knit hat. You're wearing a lot of coat there. You're in layers. You can tell it's a very cold moment there with the picture of your radio there. It looks like an ICOM radio that you're using. What ham radio gear do you have on board?
It's basically the M801, which is the European version of the 802, now replaced by the 803 and 4, I believe. Mm-hmm. But the 801 is a very, very sturdy marine radio, maritime radio, opened up for ham use. And it served me very well. It's excellent. You can see it there with the screen lit up. In fact, it's showing, I think, if you could see it, it has 7163 on it. And above it,
let's take a look. I got to now go back to that photo, Jeanne. Hold on.
Computer to the radio via that modem, which means I can now send by using WinLink. I can send emails and get weather information.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that. The last trip, I remember we talked because you actually, I think you sent me an email, and I was so impressed that it came from you on that trip. I was so impressed with that. And you're right. You are on 7.163. You're on the net there for the DX group. That's hilarious, actually. It's pretty cool because I know Jimmy would love that. That's very, very special. He works so hard on that net. I'm just showing photos of you, and some of the photos you've taken around the world. It's just stunning. I mean, let me ask you this. Piggybacking on Ron's question, which was there a time during a storm or such where you thought, what am I doing here? How long has it been since, what's the longest you've been awake? Because you have to be awake to be able to guide your ship through rough seas or a storm.
Well, to be honest, I'm awake longest when I'm near to a big port with ships coming in and out, really busy. Because normally I'd get snatches of sleep, but I mean, I'm also going past Ensenada, Mexico, which is a pretty big fishing.
Yes.
I have to be awake all night. What I do is I take a pillow up to the cockpit. I have a stopwatch, and if I can see from the AIS that it's clear, and I can also look around and see there aren't any little boats with no AIS showing, I can close my eyes for 5-10 minutes maybe. I mean, the same thing happened when I crossed the English Channel one time. That's a really, really busy area, and you've got big ships coming every few minutes, both ways in the shipping lanes. So I literally just had the pillow, started my stopwatch for about 5 minutes, and just closed my eyes. And I have to stay awake all night. I have to stay awake until I'm in an area where I can safely get more rest.
Where you'll be safe and you can. Wow. Live with Jeanne Socrates, Victor Echo 0 Juliet Sierra. Just so honored to have her. Andy in the UK says most people would be satisfied going around the world once. What made you repeat the feat more?
Well, the first one was a cruising style going around, what most people do. So I went west about through the tropics from Mexico and then back to Mexico, stopping everywhere, all these places that you hear about, Tahiti, Bora Bora, Fiji, Tonga, Niue, and then on to Australia, around across the Indian Ocean to South Africa, and on across the Atlantic to St. Helena, Fernando de Noronha in Brazil, and then on to Trinidad and on around. So, that was a pretty standard circumnavigation, stopping everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
When I finished that, just as I was about to finish it, 60 miles short of finishing, I actually ended up on a Mexican beach, and I lost my boat, which is another big story. You can read all about that on my website. If you go to the interviews page, you can see stories about that. So then I got my new boat, and with the new boat, now I decide, okay, what am I going to do with my new boat? And I was then looking at these people, these women, Ellen MacArthur, and then the Vendée Globe, the big sailing race where people go around solo. Dee Kafari and Sam Davis were in that one. And they were going around non-stop. In other words, not stopping, not setting foot on land, racing around the globe from start to finish, just to see whether they could get all the way around without stopping anywhere. And I thought, well, that's interesting. I wonder if I could do that.
Wow.
If they can do it, maybe I can copy them. So that's what got me going on the non-stop.
And you've got a world record for that too, don't you? You're the world record holder for coming in the shortest amount of time.
Well, no, that's not correct, because the racers, obviously, they've got very fast boats. They're going to do it way quicker than my steady, sturdy, heavy cruising boat. No, the record I have is for the oldest person to go around solo, non-stop, unassisted via the 5 Great Lakes of the Southern Ocean. And then the other record I have that's in the Guinness Book of Records is as the oldest woman to go around solo, non-stop, unassisted. Quite a mouthful. And then the other record I have is I'm the only woman of any age, nothing to do with age, the only woman who has actually been around solo, non-stop from North America, which of course I've now done twice.
Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. Yeah, just and the other record, and then the other record, and then the other record. Amazing. Barry Wendon from the UK, Gulf 6, Juliet Mike X-Ray. Hi, Jan. Have you thought about writing a book on your adventures?
I am supposed to be writing one now. In fact, theoretically, I'm halfway through it. I have a publisher, Adard Coles, which is a very well-known nautical publisher, and I'm supposed to be getting it to them by the end of the year, so we can publish it in time for the September boat show in Southampton next year. So that's the plan. It's rather ground to a halt at the moment because I've been busy mending my boat for quite a long time this year. But hopefully I'll be able to get back to that soon and get it done.
So multiple world record holder, author, solo sailor. Man, it just keeps you just don't, what I love about you, age is a number to you, isn't it? It's just a number. There's nothing holding you back. This is brilliance. This is true brilliance. What keeps you going like this? I know that, you're the oldest person to do this by yourself, but what keeps you focused? Do you want to do it a fifth time?
I'm debating. It's a possibility. I might be just doing it, stopping everywhere, which is not a difficult thing to do. That's why you don't get world records when you're stopping in places doing it. I suppose there is a possibility that if I went on doing it for long enough, I might hold another record as just simply the oldest person to get around, stopping or otherwise. But no, it's just the enjoyment I get out of it and just meeting up with friends. I'm looking forward. I'm going to be going down to LA. I'm going to be hopefully meeting up with members of the 7155 group down there. Mm-hmm. We're trying to get that happening. And, that will happen for sure. And then when I get down to San Diego, I'll be meeting up with people I know. I get down to Mexico, I'll be meeting up with people down there that I know. Some actually from Canada, but I've several other visits there. Mm-hmm. It's so enjoyable. There's the meeting people, there's the sailing, there's just the love of being out in the ocean with just you and the sea and the sky, and especially if it's a lovely sailing day. And the boat's sailing really, really well. That can be really, really exhilarating.
Wonderful.
So many different aspects.
Wonderful. Live with Jeanne Socrates, Victor Echo Zero, Juliet Sierra. Nice question and a nice word. So many people are just saying hello. They're just so honored to say hello to you. And Joshua's one of them. He says, my 15-year-old son, Matt, November 1, Foxtrot Kilo uniform, says, hello, Andy, Jean in the group. He asks, how were you able to sail before having to stop at port to get supplies?
You have to have everything with you before you start. I have, the boat was laid, it had extra ballast, if you like, because I had so much by way of juices and milk and tinned stuff on board. I had lots and lots of little tins of tuna and salmon and prawns and crab, meat, ham, beef, mincemeat, and then some vegetables. I have fresh onions and potatoes normally, and I also have fresh eggs. If I've managed to get eggs fresh from the hen, and then I get those and I wrap them up carefully and turn them just about every day, they will last out of the fridge. Notice they will last for 4 months.
Oh,
so
my.
I can have fresh eggs up to 4 months. You should never chill your eggs. You should just never chill them. Just turn them every day, and they last for 3 or 4 months. I know. The first time I did it, they lasted for 3 months. I took more this last time, 11 dozens. They lasted 4 months. So
fantastic.
Yes.
Wow.
And
Tell
then
us.
my beans and stuff, beans, lentils, making lots of thick soups.
Fantastic. Do you ever fish while you're sailing?
Well, if I'm in rough seas, there's no way I'm going to start fishing. I've got too many other things to worry about.
Sure.
Plus, if you're in the middle of the ocean, you're going to get a big pelagic something, a tuna, a mahi, something like that. And there's a big fish. You're in rough conditions. You're trying to get this thing in. You've got to kill it. You've got to gut it. You've got to scale it.
Yeah.
You're going to put yourself at risk trying to do that in rough conditions. So I don't fish while I'm doing that. If I'm cruising in calm conditions, I do have lures I can put out behind the boat just to troll behind me. But it's something that I have to be cruising in calm conditions to be doing. Little tins of are way, way easier.
Yeah, absolutely. There you go. All right, question from the UK from Andy. Who were your sailing heroes?
Oh, Ellen MacArthur, for sure.
Tell us why.
Seeing her around non-stop that time, getting the world record for the fastest around. Just amazing how she survived and how little sleep she was getting. That was really what got me thinking. I wonder what that would be like. I obviously won't go anything like as fast, and in fact took me a lot longer. But it was interesting. That was really got me going, thinking about the non-stop. What a challenge, what a challenge to try and get the boat around.
I think a lot of people have this vision of sailing, sailing ship, and it's sunny, it's warm, and the sun is just heating up your body beautifully and all that. But there are so many times when you're out there and it's pouring down rain and terrible winds, and it's just it's awful. It's dark, it's in the middle of the night, whatever. How do you get through those moments? You're sailing solo. How do you do that?
Well, my main thought is this has to pass. Nothing lasts forever. So as long as I can just set myself up, set the boat up so we can just survive the next few hours or whatever safely, we'll be fine, and then we can sort things out after that. So, nothing lasts forever.
What's the worst damage you've sustained out on, on one of these trips, going a long ways? What's the worst thing that's happened to your boat?
Oh, a knockdown off Cape Horn in January 2011. I had a major knockdown, and which meant, in other words, a big wave caught the boat sideways on, beam on, and knocked the boat right over, broke the boom, a load of stuff, and I had to then stop. And that was a non-stop attempt. Then I had to pull into a schweier in southern Argentina in the Beagle Channel to get repairs because I just could not continue. But again, the boat survived. I was able to undo the seal on the engine because this was a non-stop attempt, so my engine had been sealed off, but in a way that I could undo the seal and get the motor going. I did have a head sail, so although the boom was broken, I couldn't use my mainsail, but I had a head sail, so when the wind was behind me, I could sail. I actually turned off the engine and sailed around Cape Horn because that knockdown happened beforehand. And so I went around Cape Horn. That was a lovely, memorable event, actually, because I'd had my knockdown. I was feeling pretty devastated that my non-stop attempt wasn't happening. But here I was. I turned off the engine. I had my head sail. The wind was behind me. I had a great school of dolphins greeted me. There were albatrosses around me. I could see the Cape, ahead of me. I rounded it. No one else was around. I had it all to myself. That was absolutely amazing. A real bonus. If I had not had my knockdown, I wouldn't have seen Cape Horn that time. I was going to keep one away to be safe. But then I had this knockdown, and all the damage meant that I had to get into a Ushuaia, which I did.
You are fearless, girl. You are fearless. My gosh, your boat gets knocked down sideways. You're in the ocean. You're trying to get around to where you can get repairs. And then tranquility comes. And you just take advantage of the moment and just take it in. Your photos show that. The photos you take show serenity and beauty. I've just got to say, you are fearless. You really are. Jenna from Georgia, she is a young lady. She is, I believe, 19 or 20, young lady there, November 4, Juliet Echo Hotel. And she's really good. She's very smart, amateur radio. She taught herself Morse code. She's over 40 words per minute. This girl's brilliant, and I'm very proud of her. She said, how many hungry sharks have you seen?
Fortunately, not too many, but I have to say that it's the thought of sharks. When you're on the boat by yourself, you really, if you get into the water, you've got a very, very limited view. And I did once do that, actually. I did get into the water on the way across the South Atlantic from Namibia, actually. Ryan, and I've been to Ludwig's. I was going across to St. Helena, and it was stinking hot. Calm, deep, deep, deep water. Mm-hmm. And it was just so hot. I thought, wow, it'd be really nice to cool off. I got into the sea I don't think I was even in for 5 minutes, because the worry is that you can't see very far, and who knows what's in the water. Mm-hmm. Sharks might be there around you. So I just got in, and I did not stay long. And I've never really been in the water since. I did, think about cleaning the bottom of the boat. But the thought of sharks around, I decided I could keep going with the boat, maybe getting a bit dirty, but so be it.
Oh, bless your heart. That's right there, a captain spirit right there. Rodney in Holland, thank you for putting up Jan's website. That's very nice. Thank you, folks. If you'd like to, read about her history and the wonderful accomplishments that this very humble young lady has done, please click on that link. It's very, very good. She also has a brand new YouTube page as well. It's called Jeanne Sets Sail. Sorry, it's Jeanne Sails Solo. It's called Jeanne Sails Solo here on YouTube. Feel free and take a look. Some great things there about this wonderful lady that'll help you out here. We've got another special friend here from Canada. Gerard, thank you for joining us today. Victor Echo 2, Alpha Whiskey. Hello, Jen. Long time no here. Really enjoyed our QSOs over the years. That's wonderful. Gerard, thank you for putting that. That's a nice comment. I like that. His name's Gerard Parquet, and Victor Echo 2, Alpha Whiskey. Wow. I'm grateful you're here. Thank you very much for coming. Also, I want to welcome Adesh all the way from Trinidad. Thank you for coming. Winan says, will you ever visit Namibia? We would welcome you here.
Okay, well, Winan, I have to know, are you in Ludwig's, or are you, where are you? I have been to Ludwig's, but I haven't been anywhere else. And hi to Jerry. Good to see that you're here. And by the way, the YouTube channel is Jeanne Socrates Sailing Solo.
Oh, you told me, you said before it was Jeanne Sails Solo, so I didn't realize that you had it. Okay.
The short handle is Jeanne Sailing Solo.
All right.
I discovered that if you put Jeanne Sails Solo, there's someone else. So.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I wrote down the other day when we talked. So that's what I thought you said. Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah. Greg Hernandez would like to welcome you. Thank you for coming today, and a very good day to you. He says, congratulations on being able to follow your passion. I'm logging late into the interview and do not know if you have already covered this, but what is your HF setup, rigs and antenna? And for newcomers, this is important. You've got to think of how you're going to ground an antenna when there's no ground. Could you explain how you set that up, Jan?
Well, the beautiful thing is I have a fantastic signal. So many people are amazed at how good my signal is when I'm in the deep ocean, because, of course, I have all that salty seawater.
Yep.
And what I did when the boat was in build, I made sure, because the previous boat I had an awful ground and I could not get out. I could not be heard by people at all. Very, very frustrating. So this time round, I was determined to have a really good ground on the boat. And I discovered that if I had a copper sheet glassed into the boat, added into my ground, then that made a world of difference. So that's what I did. 1 square meters of thin copper sheet has been glassed into the inside of my hull and connected to my sintered bronze ground plate, which is a normal thing that people have for their SSB radio, HF radio setup. But I have this 1 square meter of copper added in, and then a wide copper strip leading to my to the tuner, and that has made a world of difference. You know, I get out so well because now I've got the sea and I've got that big amount of copper, and it makes all the difference. So I've got a maritime radio, the 802, which has been opened up, connected to the AT141 or 142, same thing. All ICOM, very, very good radio, very good setup. And my backstay is my antenna.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I can attest, your signal's fantastic, because I was hearing you when you were near Hawaii. You were very close to Hawaii at that point, and you were just coming around, through the islands and heading towards the northwest, and your signal was very, very strong. And of course, big pileup. Everyone wanted to talk to Jeanne. That's what they wanted to do. Man, oh man. Rodney in Holland, I read on your page that you had a nasty fall. I hope you're doing well. But could you maybe elaborate a little bit about that?
Yeah, that was in 2017. In 2016, I tried that last non-stop attempt twice to get away from Victoria down the coast and ran into problems. First time, a major storm off the Oregon coast. Had to come back to Victoria with damage. Sorted it out, got going in November, got all the way down to, pretty much to the Mexican border, but had problems on the boat. Had to pull in, gave up. So 2017, I was getting ready to go, to make the attempt again from Canada again. I'd come back up from Mexico over the summer to get ready. And I was a week off starting my attempt in early October. So I'm going up and down the ladder on the hard. The boat is out of the water. And just going up and down the ladder, not really thinking, not paying much attention to what I was doing. That was a big mistake. When you're going down the ladder and your boat is now, several 10, 15 feet off the hard.
Up in the air.
Oh, no. Not want to stop, concentrating.
Oh.
And suddenly I was falling. I fell off the deck level down to the ground. I was so lucky to survive.
Yes.
I didn't break my legs or arms. I stove in my rib cage on the right. Had about 11 ribs that were broken.
Oh.
My neck was broken. I was in a neck brace for 3 months.
Oh.
So I was in a pretty bad way for quite a few months recovering. Fortunately, I had friends in BC and Victoria in the area there who were willing to help me through that, to recuperate. So now I'm fine. So I took off in 2018, basically. I had to delay, obviously, a year to get over that. It was pretty bad. But now I can look up and down. I can see the top of the mast, no problem. But twisting from side to side is a little bit restricted because I damaged my 1 and 2 vertebrae, right, just below my head. And one of those is the up and down. The other one is the sideways. Mm-hmm. Sideways, not completely 100%, but it's good enough. You can move your body as well.
There you go. There you go. Bye. Finding a way. Jeanne Socrates, Victor Echo Zero, Juliet Sierra. Such an honor to have you today. And again, last call for questions in the comment section. Final call. If you have a question for Jeanne, please put it in the comment section. We'll make sure and ask her the question for you. All right. Jeanne, last time you came around, if I remember right, I could be wrong, might not be this trip, might have been the one before that, but I remember you were coming around through near Australia, and you had to go in and get help in Australia. I think the boat had tipped or something, and you got some help in Australia. Could you describe that situation?
Well, I'm not quite sure what you're referring to.
I think that you had something where the boat had tipped or something had happened to your ship, and then you came into Australia to get supplies or help for your boat or something, if I remember right. I thought this was on the last trip, if I remember right.
Yeah, well, clearly on the non-stop, the last trip non-stop and the time before non-stop, they both succeeded as a non-stop attempt.
Yeah.
But I did get close. I got close to Australia last time. I was in these major storms to the south of the country.
Yes.
And, so I was actually, I had problems with my instruments.
That's what it was.
I had problems with steering. I had a lot of difficulties. And but prior to that, so I actually did manage to sort those out, partly because I was able to get hold of a friend in South Africa who was able to help me. But anyway, but prior to that, as I was coming to there, and I think that's what you're referring to,
Yeah.
I had a friend, Colin, Victor Kilo 6 Charlie India.
Mm-hmm.
He helped me sort out problems with my communication. And so that was I used the ham radio actually to help him get me to restore an iridium link that I had on the boat at the time.
Excellent.
So that was really
that's what it was. Yeah, I remember something near Australia. Thank you for clarifying that. And then this last trip down from the Northwest into San Francisco, another thing came onto the ship. So tell us about that. There was a storm coming in. You had some help because the radio was not powering up, wasn't giving you the power you normally have to transmit. And you had help from a Hawaiian ham. You had some help from people here in North America. Tell us about what happened.
Yeah, this last trip down from Canada to San Francisco, where I'm speaking from now, became a problem because I had a lot of stormy conditions there, and things on the boat were just not working. Things were going down right, left, and centre. I had a sail problem, but then my radio started playing up, and it ended up that I could not transmit on 14300. I had to transmit, but I was able, fortunately, to transmit on 40 meters on 7155. And so I got it, as usual, I got in touch regularly with the 7155 group, and people in that group were able to help me with give me some weather information. And then, in fact, at one point, coming into San Francisco, the tide conditions coming through the Golden Gate, which is really important to get right, because if you've got a strong ebb tide, all that water coming out from the Bay Area, you cannot sail in against it easily.
Yes.
So I got that information. So that was pretty handy. My ham friends on 7155 were very useful to be able to talk to them.
And they have sailing experience too, right?
Sorry, say again?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just going to say, these folks that helped, some of them had sailing experience themselves and were able to help you with the questions you needed answered at that point.
Yeah, that's right. Two of them, Jonathan and Ed, were experienced sailors, and so they had a pretty good idea what to do to help me, where to go to get the information I needed for my weather and those tide conditions. So that was pretty good. Excellent,
absolutely. Andy from the UK, when did you get your amateur radio license?
I got Kilo Charlie 2 India Oscar Victor in when was it? In 2000. No, in 2003. Must have been in 2003. I'm not sure if you've got a dog in there. Because I'd been, my husband had 2002, I must have got it. Yes, 2002. My husband had just gone down with his cancer. We'd rushed back to England. In the meantime, over that summer in Grenada, we'd been working for the ham license. Mm-hmm. And we dashed back to England with him to get treatment for his cancer. We'd left the boat on anchor. We'd been working for the license. I had to return to the boat to make her safe and get her off the anchor and back into a yard. And the people in Grenada were about to set the exam. They very kindly set the exam date the morning I arrived on the flight back from England.
Wow.
And I had to get through, despite a Morse code exam test I had to do at that time. It hadn't been cancelled, hadn't been stopped. So I managed to get my test. I managed to get my license despite having been on the overnight flight, 10, 11-hour flight from England just before the test that morning. So
fantastic. Fantastic. And amateur radio has done for you what it does for so many people. It's a public service. It's helped you in times of need. It's been your lifeline, and it's been your friend too. It's been the person on the other end. You're talking to people. You're getting the interaction that if you didn't have an amateur radio license, you'd be solo. There'd be nothing, except for a good book and a lot of storms, I imagine, but I don't know. But my point is, the amateur radio helps you to maintain contact with people. How valuable is that when you're on a long trip like this? And I got to ask a question too. I'm sorry. There's the shortest amount of time in days. How long has been the shortest one around all the capes that you've made it?
Well, around all the capes,
Yep.
Non-stop was the last time, was this last time, which was 11 months, which is way, way longer than it should have been. I was hoping for 7 months. The previous time around the 4 Capes, which is not much different, I did it in 8 months,
Wow.
255 days, I think it's 239 days, I think it was.
Goodness sakes.
So, yeah, quite a time. But yeah, the being on the radio every day, which I was every day, often several times a day this
Yes.
last time, it keeps you sane. It keeps you in contact with people. You're not going to go crazy as some people do when they don't have the contact and they are on at sea for long times. So for me, it's been a very important aspect of my boating life.
Yeah. And I want to thank you because you sent me, I think, a couple of emails during that last trip you made. And I thought to myself, here's a person that's historic that's taken the time to send me an email from her ship out in the ocean. And I to try and, make myself comprehend how special that was. I want to thank you for that email because it was signed SV Narita. Everything was there. It was like you were at sea. And doggone it, that meant a lot to me. Thank you for that. That was very kind of you.
Well, I think if people have gone to the trouble of emailing me, then the least I can do is send them, even if it's only a quick response, at least let them know, thank you very much for sending it, and appreciate
you you really impressed me a lot with that. And that to me spoke volumes of the kind of person that you are, for sure. Well, one final question here before we let you go, because this channel tries to help people to get into amateur radio. Now, you've been in the hobby over 20 years. What do you think are some advantages for people who might be on the fence right now thinking, well, I'd kind of like to get my license, but I just don't know. Maybe, I don't know. What kind of things would you tell them that amateur radio is meant to you to try and encourage them that this is a very valuable thing to learn and do?
Well, I think the community, the ham radio community, it's a really good community. It's a bit like the sailing community, very supportive community. And as you just said, I had the help from my ham radio friends coming down the coast just recently, and I've had help from time to time when I've had other problems. I've been talking on the radio, and I've said, I've got a problem. My solar panels packed up when I came down the Pacific in 2018. And I was talking to people on the 7163 group at that time, and there's quite a few people who are electrical engineers, and they've got a pretty good idea, when you're running out of ideas as to what you might try next.
Yeah.
Obviously, I have to do it. I have to have all the equipment, multimeter, this, that, and the other. But it's so supportive, and it's lovely just to be able to chat to them and have that support when you need it.
Oh gosh, yes, absolutely, totally agree with you. And I think the thing that is really important, and what you've shown, is that amateur radio can be used to communicate by voice, but also send emails too. You sent emails through it as well. So very, very good to be able to do that. I think it's wonderful what you've accomplished. Any final words you'd like to share with the people today? You got 5 continents here.
Well, no, just thank you to everyone for coming up. Some familiar names and call signs there, which is great. And do please go to my YouTube channel and have a look at the videos of posting videos of my sailing, and hit that subscribe button. I'm trying to get my numbers up there. So,
well, there you go. Nothing wrong with that. You can. By the way, you can find Jeanne's webpage right there, and Jeanne, go ahead and give your webpage and again your YouTube channel so people can follow you, because who knows, there might be set sail number 5 coming up.
Well, the YouTube channel, the shorthand is Jeanne Sailing Solo.
Okay.
That will get you to my YouTube channel, and my website is my boat name, SV Narita.
All right. And do you have anything set for the name of the book yet?
Going Solo.
Oh,
Going
very
Solo.
good. So that'll be the title, Going Solo.
Yeah.
All right. Look for that, and that should be out, you think, when?
Well, hopefully next September, but I've got to get writing.
There you go. Jeanne, thank you for joining the show today. It's been an honor to have you.
Okay, thank you very much, and thanks to everyone out there for coming in and joining us.
Bless you, Jen. Thank you so much. I'll be right back with you, all right? All right, folks, that is a very special person, Jeanne Socrates, Victor Echo Zero, Juliet Sierra, and I am very honored, thankful to Ray Novak and ICOM for asking me to make this interview, and also to Jeanne for accepting it. People can say no, and, then you live with it, but she said yes, and I'm grateful. Coming up next on the show, the 27th of October, is a big interview. Martin F. Jew celebrates his 50th year at MFJ. Please join us at noon Pacific, 1900 UTC on October 27th. Until then, my name's Larry. My call sign, Amateur Radio's Kilo 7 Hotel November. God bless you wherever you may be in this world. I'm going to leave you with this TV sign-off here that comes from a very special place in Jan's heart, Hawaii. Till we meet again, goodbye, everybody.
Another day of broadcasting from Hawaii's very own KHNL Channel 13, a division of King Broadcasting Company. The studios and offices for KHNL are located at 150B Pu'uhale Road in Honolulu. The transmitter is located atop the Hilton Hawaiian Village Hotel in Honolulu. KHNL programming may be viewed in Hilo on KHBC TV Channel 2, in Wailuku on KOGG Channel 15, and on Kauai by tuning to UHF translator station K65BV. Thank you for watching. Aloha and good night.